Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland manga review. This one's going to be for chapter 164, which is called The Smiling Devil. So we had another week break since the last chapter, and overall I'd say this is a solid chapter. It just continues our setup for this arc. I think the thing that kind of has me feeling like a little bit like we've kind of slowed to a halt, we sort of lost our momentum, is a combination of, I don't think this nor the last chapter have been the best chapters of The Promised Neverland, and also combine that with the fact that this setup for the kind of final arc is happening right at the exact time of year you probably don't want it to happen, which is the 2 chapter breaks in a row. Over Christmas, New Year's, and it's just really lost the series momentum in that it's now feels like ages ago we had the setup for like, oh, Emma and the rest of the crew are going to be attacking Gracefield House, and now we're just kind of like, can we get back to that please? Can we please get there? This setup that they're doing is, I think, somewhat important, but like, I'm very much leaning towards sort of get to the show at the moment. So let's get into the chapter and see what they are focusing on here. So we deal with what they were talking about in the last chapter, the arrest and capture of Sanju and Mujika, being arrested for attempting to overthrow the government. So I suppose this means the sage also gets arrested as well. They do sort of just like forget about them here. Like, I suppose it was ultimately unclear, like, did they just wake up the sort of grand priest or whatever his name was, the high priest, and they didn't wake up the other sages? Because they're only talking about Sanju and Mujika, and you almost like lose track of like other demon characters just because it's we focus on them to a degree, but like they're not as distinct as perhaps they should be, so we only really sort of can properly identify a sort of handful of demons at a time. But anyway, we get the idea. They've been captured. They're trying to round up everyone who's been quote unquote contaminated by the evil blood, and their 2 soldiers are basically asked, are those kids, have they been infected or contaminated? Could those kids be evil blooded? And the soldiers lie and they say these children are simply lost. They are unrelated to the evil blooded. We were there and confirmed that fact, and so these kids are going to get out of this alive. The orders are to segregate all those with contaminated blood and make sure you don't let anyone get away. So these 2 soldiers are beginning to figure things out here. They can't be here. What can we do? Contaminated blood. Were we lied to all this time? And this is where they really, I think it's an important scene here of these 2 random demons figuring out what's going on here because of the circumstances at play. The evil-blooded clan, they were rebels who used their toxic and disease-inducing blood to revolt against the royal family. That's what we were told all this time, but in reality, if you drink this blood, we saw what happened. That blood was able to restore those who had degenerated. No, even more than that. According to witnesses, they offered their blood to citizens who hadn't degenerated to prevent them from doing so. Does that mean the evil blood is a remedy for degeneration, and all you have to do is drink it? So they talk about, like, it's extraordinary blood. Then why were we lied to for 200 years and they're still being pursued? Because they're in the way. The evil blood gets in the way of the farm's desire to rule over us. If we didn't have to eat humans to prevent degeneration, the farms wouldn't have so much power. Hold it. Then the queen and the aristocrats used the farms to control us as they saw fit. So this is an important thing here. Them all figuring out the sort of structure of their own world, that the power system of like how food works in this world only exists to, keep the high-ups in that high position. And they have vilified the people who had the obvious solution that would make things better for everyone, except those currently in the position of power in the farms. The kids ask what's going to happen to their mother and father, and also Sanju and Mujika. Are they going to be killed? And they're told that, basically that is indeed the case. And they're just talking about they saved us after everything, everyone was cured, and they just can't believe that this is what's going to happen. They ask the soldiers to help them. They're crying at this point. The soldiers do ask their names. We find out that these two characters here, these two kids, are named Alla and Alla and Mala, and the soldiers just say, we can't do anything, but we'll at least help you two. It's the most we can do. Because they're just two random soldiers. Like, we're not even given names for these characters, but it's meant to represent the idea that there's realistically more people like them who are beginning to figure this out. That they've come into this situation where people have clearly just been saved from degenerating by this blood, and they're still being told that it's like evil, and they're really beginning to piece everything together. So we cut over to the people who have been saved by Sanju and Mujika's blood. Why do we have to go through this? And they're just told, your blood puts all citizens at risk, therefore we must dispose of you for the nation, for the citizens. And we find out that two of these characters here are Alla and Mala's parents, and we basically see all of these, quote-unquote evil-blooded characters who were saved be executed by the other soldiers. And we cut to 3 days later to Peter Rattray for like the rest of the chapter. So this is an interesting kind of plot point here of just two kids seem to be like the sole survivors from the main citizen kind of group from within the capital. In that all these people who Sanju and Mujika, went out of their way to help have now been taken out. And the idea is going to be when this reveal comes out that this turned into a massacre, this apparent, the thing that was going to turn the tides in the kind of hero's favor has actually ended up resulting in kind of everyone being executed, and just the persecution from the past coming up again, fuel to the fire. How is everyone going to feel about this? Like when Emma finds out about this, how is she going to feel that, this attempt to change the world is leading to all this kind of bloodshed? And I get the feeling that they're going to be bringing up some of these topics as we go forward. Well, we cut ahead 3 days later after the execution order, November 13th, 2047, Gracefield Farm. So this is, we're getting back up to the moment of like Emma and co about to attack, I suppose. The disposal of those who received the evil blood has been completed, just as you ordered. Sanju and Mujika will be executed today. And he basically Rattray just says, now only the escapees remain. And he walks into where he has all the kids captive, has a knife out, and basically he just says, he tries to act all friendly with them. Aren't you glad they were alive, Norman, Emma, Ray, and the others from your family? They're not just alive, they're doing very well. They even attacked the imperial capital, killing the queen and aristocrats. Wow, I'm surprised to think they do that. And he's kind of laughing about this. And suddenly we see, who's this? Nat, I think, is in front of him. And we see his finger gets broken by Peter Rattray here. I don't think they show it particularly well. Exactly how this happens, just in terms of like the attempt to portray emotion here. It's just like Peter Rattray smiling, and then we suddenly cut to like his fingers broken, and it's like, did he even touch him? Did he even move? It's just like, how did this happen? But either way, the idea here is that this attitude he's trying to portray is just an act. He is actually being incredibly cruel to all the kids here. He's basically, interrogating them, torturing them a little bit here, and he's just told that, you lied. He just says, you lied to me, because he was told that they died. He said that the other kids had died, but he's now found out that that's been a lie. And he says, didn't mom teach you that you're not supposed to lie? And he begins to really, really freak out. Like, he goes full kind of crazy here, and all the kids are becoming like terrified of what's going on. Nat tries to maintain a brave face, saying that he's okay. But, you know, he has had his one of his fingers broken, and then Peter Rattray steps on his hand again. So the idea that he's breaking even more of his bones here. And he just says, "Don't worry, I don't care about a little injury anymore. The aristocrats who cared about their products being perfect were all killed by your friends. Now you all understand, right? No more lies. Answer my next questions truthfully." So this is an interesting one here. His next question is, have you guys made a new promise? You were trying to make a new promise, right? Did you? And we get the sort of flashbacks in the kind of panel behind this. We're about to make a new promise by finding the 7 walls. So this is the information he got back. And he says, if so, what kind of promise? What does it have to do with the attack on the imperial capital? Or did you attack the capital because you couldn't make a new promise? He has the knife out, and he threatens Jemima here. He holds the knife up to her, and everyone freaks out. And he basically says, "I choose you. You answer." And he points to Anna. So Anna has to give him the answer to this question, otherwise Jemima will be hurt or killed here. And he just says, "You better not give me the wrong answer this time." So he's threatening them with basically knowledge about the promise, with the setup, I think, being that Emma's about to come in, and I think Emma's group is about to sort of wreak havoc on everything. We'll eventually build to a confrontation between like Emma's group and Peter Rattray, and it's going to seem like she has the advantage, and he's going to pull out the idea of like, "Oh yeah, I know you have a promise to activate at any point, but if you do, like, it won't be activated in time to where you'll be able to save everyone." And I think that threat of just him having all of the kids here in such a terrible position, that's going to be the big thing in all of this, and that's going to be the real challenge overall. So overall, like, I think this chapter did a pretty good job at getting across, like, okay, this is the villain that is Peter Rattray, and what he's, you know, focusing on right now. He is just, like, I suppose we really don't know the full scope of, like, okay, he wants to sort of maintain the promise as it is now, or else maybe he's trying to maybe hijack this new promise for himself and maybe change it to even suit him even better. But, you know, he just the way he talks about here of just like he doesn't really care about the products and like the farm system that much anymore. He just wants to be in sort of that powerful position overall. So he doesn't care about the other kids in terms of their value as food, because, you know, he's a human. He doesn't need to care about that, really. So I definitely want to know more about the specifics in all of this. How does he feel? What are his motivations in terms of just beyond him being this sort of crazed villain to a degree? What's really sort of driving him in all of this? I think using the rest of the kids as this kind of, you know, threat to basically this is going to be the challenge for when Emma and the rest of everyone arrives. How will they handle this? That's, I think, well done. And then you have also the further setup to this of, at the exact same time as all of this is happening, the execution of Sanju Mujika is also about to take place. So it's actually like building towards the finale fairly well. I think the only thing that holds back on this chapter is that we are just waiting to like you teased the idea that the attack of like Emma and everyone on Gracefield is like literally just about to happen, and then we've had like, you know, 2 break weeks and then 2 chapters that haven't really kind of focused on that, but it feels like we're roughly getting back to that point now. So that's interesting, in that there's still so many other elements, like, you know, we obviously had the return of Isabella, though we haven't like focused on what she's about now. What happened to her, and there's all these other kind of elements that are still kind of a mystery, I suppose, within the series. But it still feels like we're right there at the end game. I think we basically know this is the final arc, and we'll see exactly what they're going to do and how far they're going to go. Are we going to see any of the kids get killed in all of this? That's the threat here, at least. So yeah, they're my thoughts on chapter 164. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.